Welcome back to Simplified Mechanic. We've got a 2014 Nissan Altima 2.5 liter alternator replacement. Stay tuned so I can save you a few $100s. Alright, we're going to jump right into it. Get you a 10mm socket. Remove the negative cable from the battery. Once you do, make sure you grab a paper towel or a rag, anything to cover it up. We don't want it touching the metal and causing a spark. Now we're going to take the engine cover off. There's 3 bolts. They're 5mm Allen wrench. Make sure you take all 3 off. I think this one only had 2. One was maybe missing. Once you get them all off, you still got to pry up on the engine cover because it's held on underneath still. Alright, go ahead and bust the lug nuts loose before we jack it up. I think it's 16mm. I could be wrong about that. Once you get them busted loose, you go ahead and jack the vehicle up, get your jack stand underneath. Once we did that, we grabbed our impact wrench, zipped them off real quick. Alright, we're going to take this inner plastic cover off. There's 3 push pins you're supposed to take off. You can use a tool like I got, or you can use a flathead screwdriver. I think there's only 1 right here, but there's actually 3. Once you take that off, you can see that is your belt tensioner nut. We used 11/16 wrench on it, or you can use 11/16 socket. You actually have to, when you put it on there, push it to the right like you're tightening it up. And that'll create the tension or let off the tension on the serpentine belt. Once you push it up to the right, you'll be able to take your Allen wrench, that 5mm Allen wrench, and there's a spot right here. So you push it up and you put your Allen wrench right in there, and that'll hold the tension on it for you. So you go ahead and remove the belt just like this. Here we're taking a 10mm socket. We're going to remove the connector from the alternator. Once we get that off, we're going to take a small flathead screwdriver. We're going to push it against the clip right here on the connector. You push it in, and then you can pull up on it. It's just a simple normal push clip, but there's not a lot of room there, so we have to use a small flathead screwdriver, or at least I did. I also removed the dipstick so I could have some room there. Now we're going to take a 13mm socket. We're going after the top bolt on the alternator. They'll both come all the way out. They're about 3 inches long, the top and bottom bolt is, but there's enough room where they'll both come out all the way. There's the bottom one. It's also a 13mm. What I found the best was I used a long ratchet. I think it was maybe a 12-inch ratchet. It's about double the length of a normal one. As you can see, both of them are about 3 inches long. Alright, and go ahead and use that pry bar. Go ahead and pry it back. Even with the bolts out, it's stuck on there pretty good. So you might have to use a hammer or use a pry bar. Once it's off, you can wiggle it out from the top. Just maneuver it around, it'll come out. There's plenty of room. And before you put it back in, take this 10mm bolt out right here, and now you'll have a lot more room. You actually can do that before you take it out. Also use the pry bar when you're putting the top bolt back in. It's a lot easier to get the top bolt back in if you use that pry bar and pry up. Once you have the top bolt back in, we're using the same ratchet, same socket, 13mm to tighten it down. Alright, there's the bottom bolt. You put that in last. We're still using the same setup. We got a very long ratchet and a 13mm socket. This ratchet, like I said, it's about 12 inches. You'll see it here in a second how big it is. I'm sure any ratchet will work. This just happened to be easier for me. Alright, we're putting the cables back on the alternator. Go ahead and remove that dipstick. Give you some more room when you put the plug back in. It'll line straight up. Just push it in, you'll hear the audible click. Once it clicks, you know it's in there. Alright, now we're going to put the battery cable back on. It's a 10mm. Go ahead and snug it up. But be careful, don't over tighten it because it will break. Alright, here's the belt tensioner bolt. We got to put the belt back on. It's the same way as taking it back off. Go ahead and pull the tension and you put your Allen key right back in there. And that way you can slide the belt right back on. Exact same way as when we took it off. It is kind of tough, so it'll take a minute. Once you're done there, you go ahead and put the fender well back on, or the plastic covering. There's push pins. I think there's 3 of them. Alright, let's get this tire back on, then we'll get the negative cable back on the battery. And our 2014 Nissan Altima Alternator replacement will be done. I want you to click on one of the videos you'll be seeing on the screen right about now. Putting the cover back on, just like we took it off. There's 3 bolts, 5mm wrench, tighten that bad boy down. And we have saved you a few $100s now. Last part is just putting the negative cable back on. It's a 10mm, tighten it up. Semper Fi.